Mayo experience.
Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog, the Week 2 rankings by position. If you're a Johnny come lately and you're watching this after the live, which we do every single Tuesday morning at 10:45 a.m. Eastern time. If you ever have a question, you're going to want to be here towards the end of the show live so we can try to answer them for you. But if not, you can just scroll around in the time codes after the live is done, and I have put them in. If there's a specific position you want to get to, Jake Ciely from theathletic.com. We got Ian Hartitz from fantasylife.com. Both of their rankings are available down in the description, and you can get mine as well. You can sign up for the free newsletter. They'll be sent out on Wednesday afternoon if you're looking for them. Maybe you want to put them all together. Take the best of all worlds. I would trust those two over me, but hey, it's not like I'm not doing them anyway. You smash the like while you're here. You sub to Mayo Media Network, and we're off to the races. Jake Ciely, how was your week one?
It was 90% good. Of course, in that stacked league, I took the L on that one. I needed just 30 points from Justin Jefferson and DeAndre Swift, and I didn't get it. I got about 21 and lost to Ian's cohort over there, Kendall Valenzuela.
Ian, did you have a better
Jake?
Sucks to suck. Thanks.
Did you have a better week one than 90% successful Jake Ciely?
It was fine. I'm unfortunately in 32 managed teams this year, so everything that happens is just kind of numb to me at this point. It's simultaneously good and bad as we sit on this rock floating around a ball of fire. So I'm just ready for week 2, Pat.
Well, we are using your rankings, again, available at fantasylife.com to go through each of the positions. We're going to start at running back, and we're going to make more of an emphasis this week and going forward to hit on that 20 to 50 range rather than just the top 20. And we're going to start again with the circle of trust, where these are guys that it doesn't really matter where they're ranked. You're probably ranking your product. You're just going to play them anyway. So, Ian, you stop me when I get to the name where we should probably have a bit of a discussion. CMC is back at number 1 because he gets 5,800 touches a game and is somehow the only healthy guy on San Francisco. Bijan, Derrick Henry, Saquon, Gibbs. There's the top 5. A-Chain, Chase Brown, Josh Jacobs, Bucky Irvin, and Kyron Williams is the top 10. Genty at 11, JT, James Conner, Alvin Kamara, James Cook, Breece Hall, the awful Tony Pollard, Chuba Hubbard, Omarion Hampton, Travis Etienne.
I think ETN is about there. That's about where it's like, okay, we still have the usage in week 1. He looked good. 70-yard run, hit over 20 miles per hour, first time since 2023. Obviously, Tank Bigsby now out of the picture. That's nice. But that, to me, was kind of like the tier break where I was starting to prioritize some more wide receivers. So DeAndre Swift is after that. We also got Travion Henderson, Dave Montgomery. So, again, they're still low-end RB2s for a reason. But, Jake, wouldn't you say it is kind of after Breece, Pollard, Chuba, Hampton, and honestly, even Hampton with Najee potentially having been on a snap count? If you want to draw a line there, I can see it.
I can see it. I would actually draw the line after. I go a few more. I have no problem calling ETN in my circle of trust after we got what we wanted. Everybody sat here and, like, not saying you guys, but everybody else, like, we want Liam Cohen to tell us the answer and do what he did with the Buccaneers. Well, the answer was Travis Etienne. And then, as you mentioned, they traded Tank Bigsby. I actually think LaQuint Allen, like, everybody's like, go pick up Bashal Tootin. And yeah, sure, stash him on a bench. Absolutely. He's not even 60% roster on Yahoo. But LaQuint Allen was out there kind of in that Rachaad White role. So, like, I'm not saying for certain, like, it's definitely going to be Tootin, but the one that I think that is certain-ish, I don't want to call it 100% lock, is ETN is the guy. I think if ETN had 2 bad games in a row, then we might see a little bit more of Tootin and LaQuint Allen. But against the Bengals and what we think should be a better passing game performance for Joe Burrow and the Bengals in general, I would include ETN. I would include Travion Henderson, even though the split was there. I would include DeAndre Swift, who got all of the work, and we still don't know if the Rashawn Johnson is going to be involved. It's more so like, who are you benching him for? But that's actually where I would go. So I would go 3 more spots from my cutoff, but I get what you're saying with the considering wide receivers more so.
Chuba Hubbard couldn't do enough for you, Ian?
It was fine, man, but good God, Panthers. I mean, how bad can you look in week one, year after year after year? So, I mean, I was hoping that Bryce Young was going to build off that really nice second half to 2024, but really was one of the more poorest quarterback performances I saw. So, again, Chuba caught that swing pass late, right after a pick six got nullified, managed to find his way into the end zone. I will say the good news with Chuba Hubbard is that we didn't see Rico Dowdle completely take over the pass down work. This was a situation that we were worried about, and even in a game where the Panthers were really getting blown out late, they still found a way to get Chuba nearly 20 touches. So again, it would be a lot cooler if the offense was better. That is why Chuba is a lower end RB2. Don't love the, I've had some wrong preseason bowl calls already. Pat, I don't love your Chuba over Derrick Henry, how that's looking right now. But again, I still think he's going to be racking up touches.
It is 1 week, and listen, it's not like he was what? He was a top 10 performer last week at the position. It's not like there was a lot of great fantasy performances. Derrick Henry just happened to be one of those guys, Jake. But looking at Hubbard, it was very encouraging. As Ian mentioned, Dowdle didn't take over the passing game. Really, the only time we saw Dowdle was at the very end when just they were like, we don't care anymore.
Yeah, there was talk that we discussed it. There was talk that the Panthers were going to spell Hubbard a little bit more because of what happened late last year, and that Hubbard kind of ran out of gas a little bit. And I know that changed with the offense and how it was working at the end of the season too, but he wasn't as effective. But at least you have to feel good coming out of week one. Of the only thing you feel good about is McMillan's target share, and then of course Chuba Hubbard. But I couldn't agree with Ian more on this one. Like I jokingly said, like he's the reverse pumpkin. Like we're gonna have to wait until Halloween to get good Bryce Young. Like he's gonna flip at the end of the year instead of the other way around of turning back into a pumpkin, because he looked objectively, not subjectively, like that's our opinion. He was objectively terrible. Like it was back to Bryce Young, who got benched last year, Bryce Young. So maybe this is 1 week and like it's week one, he just can't handle things. Maybe it was, I saw some people talking about the start to McCarthy's game last night and like, oh, what a surprise. A team that had all preseason to, style up their defense for him is struggling out of the gate. I think that's more college than it is NFL. But at the same time, maybe there's something to be said for the Panthers just stumbling right out of the gate. But I don't know how you trust anybody in this offense outside of Hubbard and McMillan.
Looking at the injury report at running back going into week 2, Ian, Eckler on Thursday night's questionable with a shoulder injury. He should play. No word yet on Will Shipley. The Eagles did say the trade for Tank Bigsby had less to do with Shipley's injury and more to do with they needed a special teamer. I guess we'll figure out if they're lying or not. They had like 38 fifth-round picks, so it didn't really matter to them. Quinshon Judkins might play this week, and that Browns backfield becomes super interesting if that's the case. As Jake mentioned before, Roschon Johnson did not play on Monday Night Football. We'll see if he ends up going with his foot injury in week 2. And Ian, I don't think your main man, Jalen Wright, is going to end up seeing the field in week 2. And I don't think that there's any main men on the Dolphins at this point.
Man, it is rough. And by the way, zero RB drafters. I'm sorry, guys. This might be 2 years in a row, knock on wood, where the running back injuries just don't really come to fruition the same way. So I understand a lot of zero RBers were drafting the Jordan Masons and Dylan Sampsons in the first place. But yeah, not much RB help on the waiver wire. And to your point, Pat, Jalen Wright certainly not going to be one to help out there. Ollie Gordon basically getting no run for a Dolphins offense that, man, guys, if we did have to kind of go through the offenses that are inner circles of trust, certainly the Panthers and Dolphins are not going to be in there. I mean, this was such a joke of a performance for a team that, yeah, we had bad vibes with all off season long pretty much, but man, they still managed to underestimate that. Did you guys realize even the touchdown at the end of the game, okay, Dolphins were already down 30 points. It was 4th and goal at the 11, and McDaniel calls a swing pass to Devon Achane where he catches the ball like the 17-yard line. By the grace of Achane being a beast, he somehow found his way into the end zone. But just a situation, man, where Tyreek Hill is already screaming. I have him outside my top 24. Achane's still in the top 10 just because he was looking good efficiency-wise. He was getting a workhorse role. And when this Dolphins offense does become as pathetic as they looked, it basically starts just force-feeding him these low ADOT swing passes that, again, are great in full PPR. So as Jake was saying, Chuba and T-Mac in Carolina, right now in Miami, I only feel good about Achane.
Yeah, you probably feel a little bit less good about Tyreek Hill at the moment, Jake. The story broke this morning about an hour ago, or so, actually less than an hour ago, that his estranged wife has court filings in against him for domestic abuse now.
This is something that's obviously going to be a concern for people that have him on their rosters and be able to start him. But going back to the running back situation, jokes included on purpose here. But hey, Ollie Gordon did have 22% of the carries. So
how many of his lined up with the DJ Giddens work?
I was going to say, so like they were, I think at least two of his touches. I don't remember if they were both the rushes or one was the receiving, but like there was some garbage time in there for Ollie Gordon. And I say that as a joke to say, like, I'm not putting too much stock into the fact that Achane was the bell cow. I know that Ian's like, oh, he's going to have 80% of the touches, but that game was out of hand quickly. Forget the Tyreek Hill situation. The Dolphins just as a whole, like I have a Dolphins friend who was texting me, he's like, blow the whole team up. And I know he's mad because he's a fan, but honestly, like he's got a point. Fans have a point. Like Mike McDaniel had an entire offseason to adjust to the NFL defenses, and through week one we edit this for my podcast afterwards. I'll say it. He did jack shit this offseason. Like there is nothing he did to make this offense look like it's capable. You have a healthy Tua. It looked miserable. You didn't get Tyreek Hill, Jalen. I have people asking me in waivers, should I drop Jalen Waddle after 1 week? And like, that's way overreaction. But to say overreaction to this team looking like utter trash, as in might be the number 1 pick in the NFL draft, I don't know how you can say, because the offensive line's not going to do him any favors. It's too late to try and fix that now. So, yeah, Achane, and I don't know if you can even start any of the wide receivers right now, including Waddle and Hill, with obvious that situation. I only said that for Ollie Gordon because depending on your league, there's not like a plethora. There's maybe 1 or 2 running back options to pick off waivers. I'd hold Ollie Gordon at least 1 more week to see what happens if this offense shows any signs of life this week against the Patriots at home. But this is a mess. Achane's the only one you can trust to play this week.
Didn't realize you had such a fucking gutter mouth, Jake.
Thank you.
Who would be those like few names that are persisting on the waiver wire at running back that you could grab? Because I couldn't really find anyone.
So we go back to last week. I mean, Judkins isn't 60%. You got to have him just in case whenever he plays. But Dylan Sampson, he's going to keep that Austin Eckler role, as I mentioned before. Like even when Judkins takes over, if it's Ford or Judkins, Sampson's role is going to stick around. And I'm going to say, look, this is a ticking time bomb, because do I have faith that he's going to be this guy the entire year? Absolutely not. I wouldn't even put 1 to 100 odds on it. But Kenneth Gainwell right now is Najee Harris. 50% of the touches. Jalen Warren, contract or not, did not see an uptick. Is what we've said for time and time again. The Steelers want Jalen Warren to be Jalen Warren to be Jalen Warren. He's going to stay Jalen Warren. Kenneth Gainwell right now is the Najee Harris role. It's not super exciting, but if Ollie Gordon is somebody you do want to drop and you need running back to start, maybe as a flex this week, I'd start Kenneth Gainwell over him. He has 50. He was the lead option for the Steelers.
Yeah, that was kind of strange. Would you say, okay, I'll throw this to both of you, and Ian, I'll start with you. If you had to drop one, this question comes from the chat from Vinsanity, 52, a 50-year-old Vince Carter fan, likely from Toronto. We'll see. Would you drop Gordon or Scatabo?
I think I'd drop Gordon at this point. At least Scatabo does seem to have that 3-down skill set. I just hope the guy can, I don't know, take care of his head a little bit more. I mean, the CTE is coming for this dude. We saw the pass pro snap, and then just on his few touches, I mean, this dude runs like he is pissed off at the entire world all at once. But he did actually get the goal line carry as well. So in a best case scenario, because let's face it, Tyron Tracy had a nice workload, but he wasn't overly effective with it. Seems like Devin Singletary, regardless of which, young back they end up going with, is going to be an afterthought. There is a world where Cam Scatabo is, again, the 3-down running back for the New York Football Giants at some point this year. I'm less confident in Ollie Gordon. Only waiver name I would add, guys, and he's not going to help you this week, but Blake Corum, clearly the RB2 in Los Angeles. Jarquez Hunter, despite all the nice things that the Rams kept saying after they drafted him, was a healthy scratch. So Kyron Williams still very much the workhorse, but if anything happens to Kyron, Blake Corum is going to be featured in all these waiver wire articles.
What do you think, Jake?
Yeah.
Which one would you drop?
I would drop Gordon over Scatabo, mostly. So there wasn't a lot that you could get from the backfield of the Giants in the first game. Another team that just looked like trash in the offensive line. I mean, they didn't have Andrew Thomas out there, but Scatabo got the one goal line opportunity. And then Tracy, for all the fact that he played fine, but he was actually very inefficient in that game. Of course, it could be the matchup. It could just be the Giants offense with Russell Wilson at quarterback. But the biggest thing that Ian said that I agree with, if we said both backfields stay healthy and just production ends up winning out, who could be the lead? It's Ollie Gordon's never going to take over Achane if Achane's healthy. Scatabo can take over Tracy. So that's why I would go with Scatabo over Tracy, or over Ollie Gordon.
I want to go to the 20 to 40 range, but first, there is one player that I want to mention, and you have him at number 16 in the running back week 2 rankings against the Buffalo Bills. I thought Breece Hall looked awesome, Ian.
Yeah, he really did. I mean, rusher and receiver. He was actually showing that juice that honestly I don't think we've really seen since those 7 games when he was a rookie. The whole Jets offense, man, and I mean, they really were his run first, and this was a situation where Tanner Engstrand deserves some credit, I think, for what he was doing there, because we actually saw the Jets, again, completely flip from being one of the most pass-heavy teams in the NFL last year to being literally 32nd in terms of dropback rate over expected in a game that was actually really fun and had points flying on the board. So they leaned in their strength. They got that young offensive line that actually looks good. And obviously all the things Fields can do as a rusher helps out with that. But then when they did pass, guys, we saw one of the biggest jumps in terms of play action rate as well, which again is just one of those easy buttons that we usually see associated with some of the league's better offenses. So, you know, Liam Cohen, Ben Johnson, we could talk about what they did too. But Tanner Engstrand, I do think deserves some flowers for how much he was able to get out of Justin Fields. And accordingly, this entire offense, I will say with Brees, we did see some of the concerns that pop up with the dual threat quarterbacks, Daniel Jones, Justin Fields alike. When they get to the 1 or 2 yard line, they are viable to go ahead and take those touchdowns for themselves. And I think now Fields has 7 rushing touchdowns in his last 6 starts dating back to last season. So as we saw with Brees, again, not going to be fully able to capitalize on some of those carries inside the 5 yard line. Maybe not expecting the Jets to score, you know, nearly 30 points every single week as well. So we got to keep that in mind. But just in terms of him looking good, and in terms of Braylon Allen really being more of an afterthought, Jake, that is encouraging. I'm still not sure if we're going to see Brees get back to RB1 heights because Fields, Allen on the ground, and also not expecting too many targets despite there not being other guys to throw to. But in terms of just being an efficient RB2, yeah, I'm cool with Brees.
Jake?
Yeah, that's the same. I was going to agree. Is the thing with Brees Hall is not that we didn't expect him to look good. And I know that's not what you were saying. We knew Brees Hall is a very effective, very talented, very great all-around running back, especially in the passing game. It was, what is the usage going to be on a touch basis? And yeah, he out-touched, I think it was 20 or 21 to 6. But the big interesting part is that Braylon Allen, when you get to the red zone, he had the opportunities. He had the rush touchdown. Justin Fields takes a part of it, and it's what we kind of brought up, or I did, you know, a few shows ago when we were doing preseason stuff, is that teams that have had Justin Fields in the past, the Jets did the same thing. They turn to the bigger running back next to Fields when they get inside the 10-yard to the 5-yard line and so forth, because it just offsets what Fields does better than the elusive option. And he doesn't even pass. He does pass to his running backs a good chunk, but not as much when they get into that area because he uses the bigger back next to him. So that's everything that's being said. Brees Hall will be top 20 the entire season. But I think where Ian has him is right, because he's not going to be an RB1, because there's going to be weeks where he gets 10 touches and does put up 60 yards, but that's it. No touchdown. And, you know, there's just going to be some of the weeks that have that volatility. And you just have to understand that with Brees Hall. If you got him as your RB2, you probably got him at a discount for what he's going to produce, but you got to keep him out there every single week, just the same as you have Justin Fields as your quarterback. There's going to be bad weeks. You're going to get Justin Fields with a 9-point game, but you got to keep both of them out there every single week and just enjoy the fact that at the end of the year, you're going to get more good than bad.
Marshall Clark asks whether or not he should hold on to Bigsby, or is that a situation where you need to wait and see what the status of Shipley is? Because if you assume he's going to be the number 2 running back, at least on the depth chart, maybe this week or next week, and Shipley's out for 8 weeks or something like that, not coming back this week, then I would say that you do hold on to him. But Ian, I don't think you can make that decision unless you know that information.
Yeah, I don't think he's a mustache by any stretch. If you do actually need help at tight end or wide receiver, the Hollywood Browns of the world, maybe you lost Kittle or something, I would be willing to cut ties with Bigsby. I'd even prefer to take someone like a Blake Corum, who again is more of a clear-cut handcuff. Lest we forget, guys, A.J. Dillon still does exist as well. So while Bigsby could technically be the Saquon handcuff, I mean, again, who really knows at this point, Jake?
Well, that's the thing. Shipley got that one series, and everybody went nuts. And everybody remember that game, like, oh my God, Saquon Barkley is not going to get a bunch of touches, and then we never saw Shipley again. But we saw A.J. Dillon, so it's not even Bigsby with the Shipley situation, as I really don't want any of them. And I know that if Barkley got hurt, everybody would be running to the waiver wire. But why I say I don't want any of them, because it's like Derrick Henry with the Ravens. I think it would just be a timeshare, whether it's Shipley and Dillon or Shipley and Bigsby or Bigsby and Dillon. Like there's not going to be a 20 touch per guy that steps up for either team if Henry or Barkley goes down.
I want everyone out there right now to smash the like. I'll wait. Thank you very much for doing that. Sub to the channel as well. If you're a sub to the channel for any amount of time, you can participate in the live chat that's going on right now. In that chat, I've dumped in a tweet where I've been sharing the show. If you could go share it around for me at the PME, that would be glorious. We're going to get to rankings 21 to 50 right after this. For over a century, Johnnie Walker has shared its bold spirit with the game of golf. Now, crafted with Devereux Golf, Johnnie Walker introduces the Johnnie Walker Blue Label-inspired Sunday Golf Bag, elevating the game with sleek design, Blue Label hues, and refined gold accents. Celebrate your hole-in-one with a premium Sunday bag crafted by Devereux Golf. Submit proof of your achievement to johnniewalker.com/blue-in-1. Please drink responsibly. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Give online therapy a try at betterhelp.com/PatMayo and get on your way to being your best self. Sometimes we turn to some funny places for support, but not everyone's a therapist. Not everyone is the one. Find your right match with BetterHelp. What you need to do is actually talk to a quality therapist, and BetterHelp therapists work according to a strict code of conduct and are fully licensed in the United States. It's also completely online. You can pause your subscription whenever you need to and switch therapists anytime at no extra cost. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Find the one with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/PatMayo. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/PatMayo. Rankings 21 to 50, half point PPR. You can get all of Ian's rankings down in the description at fantasylife.com. Mine and Jake's are down there as well. If you're ever looking for them, mine will be emailed out to you on Wednesday afternoon if you are a sub to the free Mayo Media newsletter. DeAndre Swift is 21. Trayvon Henderson, number 22. Montgomery, Flea Market, number 23. Javonte Williams, number 24. Ian was Mr. Javonte Williams last week. It worked out for him. More on him in a bit. Aaron Jones, Dobbins, Tyrone Tracy, Zach Charbonnet, Jalen Warren, and Jake, your main man, Kenneth Walker, 3 at number 30. Thursday night, we got Eckler and Bill Krosky, Merritt at 31 and 32. Chubb, Jordan Mason, Isaiah Pacheco, Dylon Hotfire Sampson at 36. RJ Harvey, Ramondre Stevenson, Kenneth Gainwell, Trey Benson, and Tyler Algier to round out that 21 to 40 range. Jake, this is your first time seeing Ian's rankings. Who do you feel is too low, and what the hell are we doing with Kenneth Walker?
So too low? I don't know that I have a big argument with most of these. I mean, maybe Pacheco a little. Well, I still want to give Pacheco the benefit of doubt. So I went back and looked at it again, but I don't know that this is the week to give it to him because he was still the clear lead and he's the first down, second down option, probably some short yardage, but you're going to have to kind of consider Pacheco and you're going to want to predict the game script. And in this situation against the Eagles, even at home, I don't know that they don't end up having to go more pass happy, which means more Kareem Hunt. Brashard Smith wasn't even a factor in that game, but yet they were kind of that 50-50 split with Pacheco as the clear lead. So it's the Steelers. That's last year's Najee Harris, Jalen Warren situation. So until we see this clear out, and I don't know that we will, I don't know that you can argue Pacheco to be much higher. And I'm with him. I don't think Kenneth Walker should be higher because, it's funny. I know you said my main guy, and everybody's coming for me with Kenneth Walker. And I was like, yes, Kenneth Walker, preseason, before a game was played. And I'm not defending myself. I'm defending the person who told me this. I don't want to call his name out because I don't want people to get pissed off at him. But the person who said the Seahawks want him to be the bell cow, the preseason happened. Games happen. And what did we say on this show is you have to be on the field to be a bell cow. He was injured. He wasn't out there. He's still banged up. And I'm not saying that him still being banged up was what happened in week 1. It's just it opened the door to this being a timeshare. And I don't know that Kenneth Walker forces his way back into the lead if they still want him to be, or is exactly where he has him at. Charbonnet is at 28 and Kenneth Walker's at 30. I think that's fine. The only one I say is not too high to be too low to push higher. It actually push a little bit lower. The Tracy thing does worry me a little bit just because he was so ineffective. I do worry that they start to sprinkle in more Scatterboo.
Ian, me looking at it, I want to take a look at Aaron Jones versus your main man, Jordan Mason. You have Aaron Jones higher. Obviously, He caught the touchdown on Monday Night Football. It did seem like they wanted to focus on Mason on the ground and focus on Aaron Jones through the air. At least that's where they were the most productive between the two. In this game this week against Atlanta, now at home, I could see it being somewhat competitive, but it does feel like a run-heavy script for me for Minnesota. I might actually bump up Mason above Jones this week.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And again, I was doing these kind of Monday afternoons. So if I was going to be adjusting post Monday night, I do hear you there. So I thought Mason looked really good too. I mean, just a big bruising player. Seemed like he gave that run game a little bit of a spark when they needed it there in the second half. So Jonesy's still doing his thing. I mean, I love seeing how they are actually wanting to use him downfield. He was racking up air yards for a running back. You really don't see that too often. So again, we do see a couple backfields per year. I think historically it's around 2 or 3 over the last 10, produce multiple top 24 running backs. So I know the Lions with Gibbs and Montgomery have usually been that group, but man, part of the hype for Mason was that he could be this cheaper version of Dave Montgomery in fantasy drafts. And through 1 week, guys, I think we saw just that.
And just 1 second, to Jake's point, Ian, about Hunt versus Pacheco, you have Hunt down at 44. Do you think that by the end of the week, he probably is that like high 30s, mid 30s, and you bump down Pacheco, or you're willing to stay where you are?
Maybe, man. It's just right now the answer is seemingly no. I mean, the Chiefs had no interest in running the football. Rashard Smith was there and could be a little bit more involved in the future. But yeah, it's Kareem Hunt getting, I guess, the more fantasy-friendly opportunities. So maybe I am just in denial that Isaiah Pacheco really could be such a dud already. So this was what we saw down the second half stretch of last season. We all just kind of assumed that it was more so due to Pacheco coming back from breaking his leg. But right now, again, it does seem like the Chiefs have a much higher opinion on Kareem Hunt than the rest of us bozo alleged experts out here. So yeah, we could be squeezing that one. But again, whether Hunt's going to get up to RB 37, 38, like I'm going to be answering most start sit questions with him, with the other guy.
I was going to echo what you were saying too, Pat, about Jordan Mason. And I know, like Ian just said, this was pre-Monday Night Football. But the interesting thing is that how many of the running back touches, like the carries he got, like if you look at that game, it was a 60-40 split to Mason. And the reason I bring that up isn't to sort of be like, oh, Mason's taking over the backfield. We talked about in the preseason that Aaron Jones is still going to be the pass catcher. And he did have 3 targets, caught all 3, had the big play for the touchdown, all that type of stuff. But this was a game where they were behind to start, and they were still leaning on Jordan Mason. And it's not like they were down by 2 touchdowns, but they were still running with Jordan Mason. So I actually, as crazy as it might sound, like I would almost feel more confident going against the Falcons, potentially with no London, no Mooney, probably at least one of them are out, and then possibly both of them, where you say the Vikings at home should just be able to roll over the Falcon or the Falcons in this situation. I would start Mason over both Chiefs running backs instead of trying to figure out that equation.
Looking at the Denver backfield, I came away pretty impressed, albeit on limited snaps and touches, with RJ Harvey. I think he'd actually be a really nice buy at the moment. I don't know how much they're going to be using Batty. Maybe he's just a guy that they throw to and he's going to be their supreme pass catcher and pick up 5-6 targets a game. Maybe he's the new JD McKissick. I have no idea, Jake, but I thought that Harvey looked way better than Dobbins.
He does. And RJ Harvey is the most upside and most ability as of right now. Like if J.K. Dobbins was pre-injury a couple of years ago, you'd have an argument for this. But at this point, he does. But this is Sean Payton. Sean Payton on active game days, even back when he had Kamara and your most hated player of all time, Mark Ingram, and all the rest with the Saints, there was days where he had 4 active running backs. This is just what Sean Payton does. Like I told people, hey, maybe Marvin Mims actually has the number 2 role, and then he didn't. Troy Franklin did, which Ian brought up last week. Is hey, stash him just in case that we see signs coming. But all that being said, I'm not dropping Mims to go chase Troy Franklin at this point because he also does it with his wide receivers. This is just what Sean Payton does. Is he rotates a lot of pieces at all of his skill positions. Unfortunately for us in fantasy, I would hope in time this shakes out, and I think talent will win out and Batty will stop being a factor at some point, but I don't think unless he's hurt that J.K. Dobbins is going to go away, and that's what's going to be annoying about it. So I do agree with you as a buy low. There might be a chance where you even buy even lower after week 2 because the full-blown committee continues through week 2.
I think when you look at the backfield, sorry, just real quick. I mean, Dobbins, to be fair, they weren't opening up many holes. That offense really didn't look good. Thank God, Pat. I had the Broncos in Survivor pool. I was freaking sweating, man. That was not an easy one there. So I will give Dobbins a little bit of credit. He was 7th on the week in yards after contact per carry. He did have a nice touchdown run where he managed to shed a tackle. But I do think the buy low call on Harvey could be cool, man. That 50-yard rush, man, he really did look like a beast in the open field. But yeah, this Batty stuff, I mean, it was starting to creep in last year. And then the one game where he had 7 or 8 targets or something like that, he got injured and put on IR. So it's just, I thought that was going to be the 2-man backfield. And they actually had this play early on where they kind of did play action to Batty, set him on a wheel. And I'm still getting used to these new numbers. And I was like, oh, that's sweet usage for RJ Harvey. I can get behind this. And then it's like, no, that wasn't even freaking the guy you drafted in round 2. So buy low on Harvey. But for right now, I do think we have to continue to lean Dobbins.
I want to throw this out. I want to throw this out to the chat too. I want to hear from you guys. Who was the most confusing number change of the year so far? For me, it was Puka. I was like, who the hell is number 12 on the Rams? Like, he looks just like Puka. It's like, oh, it is Puka.
I don't think that one got a lot of attention. That's why. Like, there wasn't a lot of mention. Like, we focused all the stuff on the 1 and the 0 with the situation after Micah Parsons was traded and all that. But like, Puka's kind of just got pushed under the rug for some reason.
I knew it was Puka, Ian, because every time he'd take a hit, he'd have to be escorted to the sidelines and then come back.
He does have that Julio Jones, Tyreek Hill gene to him, where again you see that happen 3 times per game. But the dude's a warrior, bleeding from his head, no problem. And just isn't that hilarious, guys? We're like, fairly ugly entire kind of slate of late Sunday afternoon games. And Puka, I just felt like I was like, okay, whatever, it was fine. Then you look at the box score and it's like 10 catches for 130 yards. So that dude, man, as long as Matthew Stafford is healthy, really could finish as the wide receiver 1 in fantasy. It will happen at some point in his career.
It wasn't a number change, Pat, but the one that got me, and I obviously didn't pay enough attention to his number because it's his number right out of the gate. But Harold Fannin going with the Dallas Clark 44.
The 44.
That threw me. That threw me at first too. Like, I know, the same thing. Like, he caught the pass, and I was like, are they not using Fannin? Like, what? I didn't know they had a fullback. And then I was like, oh wait, that is Fannin. Like, I didn't realize he was 44.
Let's transition to the Browns, because Sampson, you have ranked at number 36. You do have Judkins in your rankings at 46. So let's say Judkins does not suit up this week. And then we can play it in the scenario. We can role play here as well, Ian, if you want to do that he does play as well. In either situation, whether Judkins is in or out, do you think that Sampson is the primary receiving back for this team?
Receiving, I do. And honestly, guys, I really would try my best to give it 1 week on Judkins, even if he is going to be playing. Again, not the easiest matchup going up against this Ravens front 7 in the first place, at least in the run game. So even if Judkins is, again, confirmed going to be out there, I will continue to have Sampson ranked higher. No, Judkins, I do think it would be a deserved bump for Sampson. I don't think I'm going to be able to get him inside the top 24. But if you did want to put him up there towards that RB2 borderline with your Aaron Jones, Tyrone Tracy's of the world, I think it could be deserved. So, Pat, you've been all over the Joe Flacco scent really from day one, and seeing the fact that the Browns were willing to really let him cook and abandon the run game in favor of spreading out to all these pass catching friendly options, it was good to see. So again, full PPR scoring. We want these targets over rush attempts, and the fact that Sampson is proving more than capable with it, man, he is someone that again deserves that bump up, and will definitely be top 30 with no Judkins.
I bring it up, Jake, because they're double-digit underdogs in Baltimore.
Yeah, and I think that you saw the 9 on the reception side of things, and that you expect similar against the Ravens. Like, the Ravens, I don't think have any problem putting up the points against any defense. So Sampson, whether it's Judkins or Ford, I'm going to go back to it. I kind of said the same thing on a waiver show that I did with Chris Harris, is like, Sampson's the constant here. And look, old lost for you, Pat. He's the constant. It's like, no matter what happens with Ford or Judkins, he's going to be Austin Eckler on this team. I don't know if you're ready to move on, because I want to throw out a question that you should be, I don't want to say you should be asking, but I think is a good one for us to discuss. Is that similar to the situation? Is that, what if there is no Austin Eckler on Thursday night, and how far do we move Krosky Merritt?
Do you think that Krosky Merritt would end up playing that Eckler role, or do you think they would bring McNichols in or activate Chris Rodriguez for that?
Both. The second part, I think Nick Nichols would be involved more, and that Chris Rodriguez would be involved and active. But that's Ian's ranks. Like, I would move Krosky Merritt up, but I put it this way: like, if it was my rankings, I would trust him more than Tyrone Tracy. But that's probably about where I would stop. He'd probably be a fringe RB2 for me.
Yeah, if I made you Method Man, Ian, how high would you get him?
I think Jake's right there alongside J.K. Dobbins and Javonte Williams makes sense. But yeah, I do think McNichols would be the annoying pass down guy. We just didn't see too much usage for Krosky with that. And then Chris Rodriguez being active could eat into a little bit. But hey, still a great debut. I mean, I saw a cool stat from Michael Florio, obviously great things with NFL Network. And he was saying that Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, first player in NFL history drafted outside the top 200 picks with 75 plus rushing yards and a touchdown in their debut. So again, wasn't maybe the 150, 3 touchdown performance that you maybe believed based on the training camp hype, but still one heck of a start. And yeah, already, looking like a staple inside the top 36.
Pat Mayo and I go so far back that Florio was an intern while we were
for
working
us.
at the same
he
college.
was, yeah. He was he was our intern like 10 years ago.
It's crazy.
Maybe more at this point. We're old.
It was more. Yeah, it was close to 15 at this point, Pat, which is crazy.
Fun. Yeah, I mean, that doesn't make me feel good, Jake. At all. If you want to make Pat feel better, smash the like to this episode and sub to Mayo Media Network. When we ask for questions at the end of the show, you need to be a sub in order to ask them. I do have a weird take on this that I don't think that Jaden Daniels ever really wants to check down, but I think that they do design things for Eckler to utilize that skill set. And I don't think that goes to Bill Krosky at all. I don't think it goes to McNichols or Rodriguez. It would be my idea that they'd probably just work Debo into more of those roles.
I can see that as well.
Because, I mean,
We didn't
Debo's
even
fourth
see-
quarter, when they needed to lean and move that ball in the fourth quarter, especially after Eckler got banged up, it became Debo time against the Giants, who looked good, too.
They only gave him that one rush attempt. And honestly, he looked good as a regular wide receiver, something that we didn't see a ton in San Francisco. I mean, 3 of his catches actually came 10-plus yards downfield. I believe he only had 8 or 9 all of last season in that role. So actually getting a little bit of separation in addition to the usual design stuff. Debo's someone that, again, is inside the top 24. And we've talked about that extended kind of wide receiver 2 to wide receiver 3 tier. And at a certain point, guys, I think I'm just going to start leaning towards those sort of offenses like the Commanders where we can be a bit more confident in the scoring upside.
Last player I do want to bring up before we move on to wide receivers. He's ranked at number 24. It's Javonte Williams. We had a big discussion about him on the show last week. Of course, he scores the 2 touchdowns. I guess he's the bell cow back. He's getting the goal line carries for Dallas. Here's the thing, Jake. He still kind of looked terrible.
I wouldn't call him terrible, but I would say he looked probably 90% of the Javonte Williams. So he looked better than he did last year, but he still didn't look as good as the Javonte Williams we knew before he got hurt. So I think that he's interesting in the fact that I would draw the parallel to Joe Mixon, Nick Chubb, in the fact that you get that much of the work. Maybe it's very inefficient work, but you're getting the work to be an RB2. And like, if you want to put him as an RB3 when we have everybody fully on this slate, I have no problem with it. This week in the matchup, I would feel a little bit stronger, but not much. I mean, it's more about the names in front of him than Javonte Williams in his own right of where he ranks.
Weirdly, Ian, I think that he and Tony Pollard are basically the same guy at this point.
There you go.
Hey, and I mean, based on week 1, we have a ton of just bad running backs and great roles, I guess. So again, wouldn't completely overreact to the yards per carry. And I understand Javonte is not a world-class running back, but guys, all these guys I'm about to list average under 4 yards per carry. Jonathan Taylor, Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, Marion Hampton, Ashton Genty, Christian McCaffrey, Bucky Irving, Chase Brown, Kenneth Walker, and Bijan Robinson. Bijan was at 2. Ashton Genty had 2. Ashton Genty had 6 more yards after contact, and he actually had real rushing yards, which again is really tough to even wrap your mind around. So no, Javonte didn't look great, but neither did those other guys. And why do we trust them? Because of that sweet, sweet volume. And we do have a one-size-fits-all metric at Fantasy Live called utilization scores. Shout out to Ray McFarland. Javonte, based on his snaps, based on the routes and all the rush attempts, had the 7th most fantasy-friendly workload of any running back in week 1. So Jerry Jones is already on his radio show saying they're not going to activate Jaden Blue again for this week. So thanks, I guess, for that note, Jerry. And again, the other competition at hand is Miles Sanders, who could not have looked slower on that, long long touchdown, the long run where he got hawked and saved the touchdown. So Javonte, again, it's gross, but RB24, man, I'm with you, Pat. Tony Pollard's at RB17. If you wanted to put them right next to each other, I wouldn't think that's nuts.
Yeah, I would just lower Pollard because, Jay, he did a classic Tony Pollard. He had, 140% of the touches for Tennessee and ended up with 7 fantasy points?
I gotta say, and I don't love the matchup this week. So
no, it's not as bad, but it's still bad.
Yeah, and it's the volume situation. But I think the interesting thing, I was actually going to follow what Ian said, was that I'd be concerned against the Giants if Jaden Blue is active, because what you want to do is you want to get away from that defensive line with some pass catching, some outside runs, some sweeps and stuff like that. That's not Miles Sanders. So if Blue was active, I'd be a little bit more concerned. But if that's going to hold true and Jerry Jones is telling the truth and there is no Jaden Blue this week, then yeah, I think Javonte Williams, you could have an argument for a toss-up with Tony Pollard, in my opinion.
2 final running back notes for me. Start your running backs against Carolina and start your pass catching running backs against Tampa Bay. They do not cover anyone in the flats. It's tough this week because they're playing
So
Chubb.
run back 2024 again, basically, for those two teams.
Just whatever happened last year, just do that again. Let's get to the wide receivers. You stop me with the circle of trust, Ian, as we go from 1 down to probably 20-something, I'm guessing here. Chase, Puka, CD, Jefferson, Neighbors, Collins, Amon-Ra. You're not worried about Amon-Ra at all?
It's not ideal, but it's just 1 week. I'm willing to give the Lions and Bengals mostly a pass for what we saw in week 1. Both the Browns and the Packers, very talented defenses, especially now Green Bay with Micah out there already wreaking havoc. Just makes me feel so good, for the Cowboys there. So again, just we've seen this for 4 years with Amon-Ra. I'm not sounding the alarm bells just yet.
Drake London's at 8, but he's questionable to play this week with his injury. JSN at number 9, who I think he ended up with 54% of the targets from Sam Darnold. Brian Thomas, who basically wasn't utilized at all, scored a rushing touchdown, though, at 10. A.J. Brown, T. Higgins, Lad McConkey, Mike Evans, Garrett Wilson, Zay Flowers, DK Metcalf, who was the focal point of that passing game in Pittsburgh. Debo at 18, Igbuka at 19, Cortland Sutton at 20. Marv Harrison at 21, Ricky Bullets at 22, Tet McMillan, Devontae Adams.
I think it's there. I think it's at T-Mac. As great as he looked, and he even had guys this sweet one-handed catch. They ended up ruling it was incomplete. I disagreed, ended up drawing a DPI. Also had another 16-yard catch, nullified like an illegal offensive lineman downfield that, again, didn't really influence the play. So it just comes down to the Bryce Young factor. But, man, with no Adam Thielen there anymore, T-Mac could be, again, averaging 10-plus targets per game. It's a big reason why we were so high on him before the season. So, again, I still have him ranked inside the top 24. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be starting him, but in terms of just feeling really good, rock solid circle of trust, might be tough to squeeze him in that.
I would put McMillan in that circle of trust just simply based on volume, Jake. But then we get into, I don't know what to do with Adams. He had a couple catchable balls that he did not bring in. And then you have George Pickens, who doesn't even really run routes.
That's a very interesting way to put it. Yeah, I would include McMillan just because pure volume. As bad, can it get any worse than Bryce Young in week 1? I mean, he can run that back. He did for the entire preseason, or not preseason, the early season last year before he got benched. So you get the same Bryce Young again. Well, then he's still going to be trustable. I know you made the comment we're not focusing on the top part, but Brian Thomas. But I tweeted this out yesterday. There was 9 players that ran 100% of the routes. One was Brian Thomas. Brian Thomas actually had one of the lowest catchable rates for targets in week 1. And it's just, it was bad for Trevor Lawrence. So
I went, I watched it in real time and I talked about it on Sunday night. Then I went back and watched it again on Monday morning just to confirm what I saw. Trevor Lawrence was actively bad in that game.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Trevor Lawrence, Liam Cohen's fixed some things. He hasn't fixed Trevor Lawrence yet through week 1. But I think that's the interesting part here is I'm not going to overreact to Brian Thomas, just like I'm not going to overreact to Amon-Ra St. Brown. And the fact that Travis Hunter was fun, but he's still only out there as the slot option and 3 wide. So I still think Brian Thomas is going to be fine. And I know we weren't focusing too much on that. I just wanted to bring it into the people that were concerned about St. Brown. I would say the same thing about Thomas. I think both will be fine. I'm not overreacting to 1 week. But yes, Tedero McMillan is probably where I cut off because the Adams thing was weird. And maybe that's been the lost connection because unlike Nakua and Stafford, there's not been a lot of time with Stafford's back issue for them to get that rapport going, and maybe things will be better. And you were right. There was a ball. I know there's at least one. I don't want to say multiple. Maybe you saw one more than I did, but I know there's definitively one where he should have come down because he's Devontae Adams with that ball. All that being said, McLaurin, 1 week, I'm not overreacting too much too, but I think that's the conversation is now you're getting into, well, there's another guy alongside of these wide receivers, Pickens, McLaurin, Jameson, where it's yeah, you can make the argument, do I 100% trust him? Probably not. So I think McMillan's the good cutoff.
So Ian, I would bump up into the circle of trust. So I'm with you on the top 23 that you have. I would move Jacoby Myers up, who just continues to post the, you need 16 fantasy points. Jacoby Myers, your main man for that one, and especially with Brock Bowers being iffy to play this week as well. So I'd throw him up there, and I'm going to throw Cedric Tillman in there too. That guy is the receiver one in Cleveland. You want to talk about drops and penal moves? Jerry Jeudy, besides the kicker, Jerry Jeudy was second on the blame list for Cleveland.
Now, I hear you on Myers, and especially if we do end up seeing Bowers sideline, he'll 100% be in the top 24. You want to put him there as it is, man. Again, I would not be calling you nuts. Has back-to-back wide receiver 2 finishes over these past 2 years anyway. And Gino looked good, guys, and honorably good. He's got that double-digit ADOT. This dude is just zinging it all over the field. And we actually saw the Raiders, maybe because they couldn't run the ball, I think throw the ball around the yard a lot more expected, even in a not great environment and the weather. So you're talking me into it, Pat. I got Jacoby up there a few spots, so I will be adjusting the ranks on that one. So yeah, man, I hear that. And then Cedric Tillman, it's now 5 starts since that Amari Cooper trade, and he's managed to post, I think, 3 or 4. I think it's 4 top 24 finishes in those games. So Judy has been the second banana in those instances. I do caution with expecting too much out of too many members of the Browns. You know, we talked about Fannin, we talked about maybe Njoku later still out there and stuff. Like, it is hilarious. Like, can you imagine telling ourselves in 2020, like, hey, in 5 years, guys, you are just going to be stoked whenever 41-year-old Joe Flacco is under center there for the Cleveland Browns. But hey, he keeps on putting up the big pass yards. So not going to say never. He is only 40. Also, my apologies, Joe. But yeah, man, I wouldn't quite have Tillman that high.
I see. I think that Tillman right now, Jake, is someone we're going to look at like 8 weeks from now, and he's just solidly inside the top 15 every single week. I think you should actively trade for Cedric Tillman.
So it's funny. Yeah, go back to that waiver show that I was talking about, and I had him number 2 in waivers behind Hollywood Brown because
number
of the
1.
situation
I'd rather have him than Hollywood Brown. Hollywood Brown stinks, by the way.
No, well, that's the debate we were having there.
And there's just one problem. He's not any good.
And his finger painting sucked too. Really, what it comes down to is Joe Flacco the quarterback for 17 games? And that was the argument that I threw out for myself. As I said, if you told me today that we never see Dylan Gabriel and it's Joe Flacco for 17 games and he stays healthy, it would be Cedric Tillman number 1, because I think Cedric Tillman also has NFL wide receiver number 1 ability. And what I say that as is I think Jerry Jeudy's more of a 2 and in the NFL terms of things. And if we're talking about that, Fannin's going to be a factor. Ian's right. Like, we don't want to count on 5 Browns players to carry our fantasy teams. But Fannin's ability is a threat to Jeudy, similar to Warren's ability is a threat to Josh Downs. And Fannin's also a threat if they're going to be running 2 tight ends out there to Njoku. The one person that's not threatened by what's going on with Fannin and Jeudy in the backfield is Cedric Tillman. And yes, he could be a bust. I'm not ready to say he's definitively top 20 as of today. But to your point, if we get to the end of the season and it's like, hey, shock among shocks, like Cedric Tillman's top 20 is one of the league winners that people had at the beginning of the season, I wouldn't be shocked at that.
I think that as long as Joe Flacco is playing, Ian, I think he's going to average like upwards of 45 pass attempts a game. I do think that as long as he is starting, all of these guys are pretty viable.
It's what we saw, man. Honestly, there was even some cool stuff from Kevin Stefanski. Perhaps the old dog's even learning some new tricks out there, because I was looking at kind of the biggest differences in terms of offenses using pre-snap, shift, and motion. It's usually a good sign. Again, the 49ers and previous good versions of the Dolphins of the world, you see the top offenses use this a lot. And the biggest improvements based on last year, at least for 1 week, guys, the Browns, the Jets, the Jaguars, and also the Colts doing some really good things. For Indiana Jones, we can roll with that nickname now for the artist formerly known as Danny Dimes. So again, it looked good for Cleveland. Also was against the Bengals defense that, as we know, is nothing. So I will be curious to see if they can keep looking good against the Ravens. Obviously gave up plenty of points to the Bills, but it is the Bills. So I'll be more drinking the Kool-Aid here. But hey, man, I threw a stat out last week. Joe Flacco, if you remove the games where he just played, half of it in relief, he leads the NFL in passing yards per game over these past 2 seasons. So old man still got it.
Again, double-digit underdogs at the Ravens this week. Someone in the comments actually made mention, Jake, you'll really enjoy this one. With the Ravens lost, do they come out angry and try and prove something to stomp the Browns? I agree, because if they won, they probably would have tried to lose against the Browns.
I know that's not what they were asking, but I love that's where you went with it. You got to love it when, these teams are just going to come out and be like, yeah, you know what? We won a game, so who cares?
Yeah. Now we lost. Now we have to win the game.
The Vikings were able to pull it out. So they're going to, they're going to go home against the Falcons and be like, yeah, who cares if we win this one?
Yeah, no big deal.
Analytics.
We're going to get to the questions at the end of the show, and we're going to do some more start sits for wide receiver right after this. Here's a stat that stops people in their tracks. Nearly half of American adults say they would suffer financial hardship within 6 months if they lost their primary income earner. If that stat hits close to home, you're not alone, and you're not out of options. With PolicyGenius, you can find life insurance policies starting at just $276 a year for $1 million in coverage. It's an easy way to protect the people you love and feel good about the future. PolicyGenius makes it easy on you by helping you compare your options by getting quotes from America's top insurers in just a few clicks to find your lowest price. And you can talk to a team of licensed agents who can walk you through the entire process step by step. So, secure your family's future with PolicyGenius. Head to policygenius.com/Mayo to compare free life insurance quotes from top companies and see how much you can save. That's policygenius.com/Mayo. Now that I'm old, I've had to come to the fact that I just don't bounce back the way that I used to. I don't wake up in the morning feeling normal. And now that football season has started, that is absolutely unacceptable, because I got work to do in the morning and I got kids that are waking up. It's no good. But that isn't a problem anymore because I found ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol. The ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic, invented by PhD scientists to tackle the rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's a buildup of this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for the rough days after drinking. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make pre-alcohol the first drink of your night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel the best tomorrow. Go to zbiotics.com/PatMayo to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use PatMayo at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund you your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/PatMayo and use the code PatMayo at checkout for 15% off. We're going to be calling for your fantasy questions in about 10 minutes, so you got to be subscribed in order to ask the questions. To do that, smash the like while you're at it. Wide receiver injuries, Ian, coming into this week. Drake London is questionable with his shoulder injury. Juwan Jennings is questionable. It does look like he might play with a shoulder injury. Matthew Golden on Thursday Night Football. We'll have to monitor the injury report on him. Did it with Jaden Reed. I'd expect them probably both to play at this time. Christian Kirk probably not going to play for Houston. Jake Bobo, no one really cares, but he's probably not going to play this week for Seattle either. Darnell Mooney should be back for Atlanta against Minnesota, but that is a Sunday night game, so monitor him all week. And then we get to Xavier Worthy, who I just naturally assumed Ian would miss a bunch of time, but he's like day-to-day now.
Yeah, me too, man. It sounded like with the dislocation that it could be an IR potential injury, but day to day at least could be back in a few short weeks. So just got to keep hoping that, again, you can buy time before we get Rashee Rice back in the picture. But it just does suck seeing, again, Mahomes actually hit some deep balls and just the plan they had in place for Worthy, having to stare at those zeros over the course of the entire weekend, and the lineup was no fun. So, again, Hollywood Brown, I'm with you, Pat, didn't look good with his opportunities at all. But that said, 16 targets led the freaking week. And he is, still playing with Mr. Patrick Mahomes. So obviously the line wouldn't have even looked as good if it wasn't for that busted coverage there at the end where he finally did get deep. But Hollywood Brown has been so banged up over the years, and there is still a good player in there somewhere when he is healthy, which he apparently is right now. So I would say Hollywood is, obviously the go-to get right now for the Chiefs. That said, I still couldn't squeeze him inside my top 30. Do keep an eye on another wide receiver injury, though. Jalen Royals, the Chiefs rookie, missed last week with a knee issue. He actually was the guy originally where people were wondering if he could be, the lower underneath ADOT guy while Rice is out. So Juju's still out there. Again, it's just a sad situation. We got Tyquan Thornton being featured in the year 2025. But if we could actually get some assistance in the underneath areas while Worthy and Rice are out, Royals, if he can get healthy, could be that guy.
I mean, that's where Hollywood Brown kind of lives now, though. Like Patrick Mahomes' ADOT might be 2 this week. I'm surprised, Pat, you haven't gone down the rabbit hole of thinking this was intentional by Travis Kelce.
Oh, well, listen, he got him a touchdown. He's one of the better fourth quarter performers of the week as well.
Because Taylor was on a podcast talking about how much she liked Xavier Worthy for fantasy this year, and that Travis Kelce went out and took that shot on purpose because he saw him coming. That's why.
Oh, see, you'd be shocked at what I don't pay attention to on the internet. I was not aware of this.
You pay attention to so much random stuff. I figured you would have caught that one.
Yeah, that's out of my purview as we go through the information dump here. So the Circle of Trust stopped at Tet McMillan, the big giant head, at number 23. I like Tillman and Myers to advance into that, but obviously Ian has them lower. These are his rankings. You can get them down in the description right now, along with mine and Jake's. Number 24, Devontae. Then Pickens, McLaurin, Tyreek Hill at 27. Mark that. Jamison Williams, Jacoby Myers, DJ Moore. 31, Devonta Smith, Ridley, Olave, Judy Hunter, Keon Coleman, Keenan Allen, Hollywood Brown, Khalil Shakir, and Jalen Waddle at number 40. Diggs at 41. Pittman at 42. Romadunze, Italy's own, at number 43 with a touchdown on Monday Night Football. Cedric Tillman at 44. Way too low. Shaheed at 45. Keyshawn Butte Man at 46. Josh Downs, Quentin Johnson, and Matthew Golden, Jaden Reed to round it out. Then you got other losers like Cooper Kupp outside of the top 50. He's good, Jake. Cooper Kupp, I'll tell you that. He did beat Slayton. Slayton had no catches. Kupp had one.
Yeah. Look, hey, like I'm not dumping him after 1 week. And also that JSN had 75% target share in that game. So like, I mean, I love that for JSN. You haven't asked any questions yet, but I was gonna play the old what the listeners might be saying is why do you hate Ian? I actually was surprised. I know it was disappointing until late in the game when he got the touchdown, but Roma Dunze actually led the Bears in targets. They made a thing for Caleb Williams to be looking his way and try to find ways. And I know Zacchaeus was a factor, but Zacchaeus had more targets than freaking DJ Moore, and I know he had some carries, but I think Dunze, it was messy by Caleb Williams after that first drive, but it seemed to be like, at least in my opinion, of watching the game as a whole, that Dunze is clearly going to be a focal point for Ben Johnson.
Yeah, not to keep, placing the blame on all my bad ranks on them being from the Monday night game. But I do think Adunze should be someone I move up. I would stay right there next to Travis Hunter and Keon Coleman on that wide receiver 3 borderline. I probably would rather
around,
start him.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, over Hollywood Brown, over Keenan Allen. So I do hear you there. Look, I would have appreciated if Caleb Williams was, a little bit better passing the football. Why didn't Ben Johnson just call the good plays, guys? Isn't all that, he kind of had to do for Chicago this year?
He ran out after the first drive. That was it.
Yeah, right. There weren't flea flicker reverse bullshit back to your offensive tackle this week. Funny how that works when you have a significantly less talented team out there. But the two things we did see for the Bears, I do think are encouraging for Rome and even Caleb moving forward. They were willing to throw the football around the yard. I mean, a big part of that probably is having DeAndre Swift still as your lead early down running back in the year 2025. But we again saw their basically pass play rate drop back over expected, shoot up the ranks. Let me see if I can get the exact numbers. Yeah, plus 12% based on last year. That was one of the biggest improvements, again, just in terms of being willing to drop back and throw. Also, plus 9% in play action rate. So when Caleb actually was using play action, he was a top 11 quarterback in the EPA per drop back. So there were slivers of hope there. And to Jake's point, Rome was a big involvement there in the passing game. So cautiously optimistic, obviously not the letdown Bears fans wanted, but I do think the passing game has a potential to be better than last year.
Guys I would move down from this range, and a couple guys I would move up. I would dump down Devontae Adams. I would dump down Tyreek Hill, DJ Moore, Chris Olave, Travis Hunter, Hollywood Brown, Keon Coleman for this week against the Jets, and Steph Diggs for sure, and Jalen Waddle. Just bump all those guys down. Bump up Keenan Allen, Quentin Johnston, both those guys. Shaheed up. I'd have Keyshawn Boutte over Stephen Diggs at this point in time. Tillman should be like number 11 on this list, so just play him as much as you want. Those are the guys that I would just bump up for sure right away. What do you think, Jake?
Me? I still know why you hate Olave, but I'm still not going to.
Olave left the game twice and managed to come back in. He is a walking triage unit. He is not going to finish one of these games.
He also had 13 targets and led the team as one of the highest target shares for week 1. It's just because that's what Rattler does. And yeah, he has had deeper targets, but you know how many he caught of those? Like, he's going to Juwan Johnson and Chris Olave a ton, and those are his top 2. I don't disagree with you. But until Olave's like Puka Nacua, we joke about that, and I'm not putting Olave on Nacua's
Puka always comes
tier.
back and doesn't have the history of concussions that Chris Olave has.
And like Olave came back to the point. He still ran 43 of 48 routes. It's not like he missed a ton of the game. So I would say like I get your point, but until Olave is actually hurt and out, I'm going to be fine with him. Like, I'm not arguing to put him up. I'm just arguing not to put him down. That's the biggest thing.
I don't know. I look at it, Ian, and although he had the 4 more targets than Shaheed, he had 1 more catch and 20 more yards than him without any of the downfield shots or the end zone targets that Shaheed got.
Yeah, but honestly, like we kind of saw where those got.
No, they both had one end zone. Sorry to jump in, but they both had one end zone target.
Olave's was not a real end zone target.
Well, again, how many of these targets have been real in this offense for the past couple years? Olave has always been leading in these uncatchable air yards sort of leaderboards. So the fact he does actually have a lower ADOT this year, it makes me feel better about the weekly floor. We know he can win downfield and do those things. So the fact they actually are willing to dink and dunk a little bit more, get him those easier 5-6 yard gains here or there, I do think it helps the floor in an offense that, again, we aren't exactly expecting fireworks from. So I was encouraged to see Spencer Rattler, at least for portions of the game, look like, I don't know, a top 40 quarterback on the planet. Again, the bar is low here, but just in terms of the Saints and the Browns, two offenses that we expected nothing from, I don't know, guys, those passing games look better than the Panthers and Dolphins last week, so at least we have that going for us. So again, Chris Olave, wide receiver 33, I think that one's fun.
I would have Romeo Doubs as the highest Green Bay receiver as well.
Yes, I'll agree with you there. All right, so the golden one was super frustrating.
The shower. His name's the shower.
The shower was super frustrating. I want to know the injury that they're talking about. Did that happen in the game and that's why he wasn't the one? Or is this after the game? Because the interesting thing here was that we didn't get, first of all, we didn't get any Packers wide receiver at a 75, actually even 70% route clip rate. But Dobbs was the closest at, what was it, like 68% if I'm wrong, Ian? But the one thing that we talked about in previous shows when I was one of the biggest proponents of Matthew Golden. That being said, I kept saying that the two looked like it was going to be Dobbs. And that's the one thing that we do know. Like maybe even let's play the scenario that Golden was banged up in that game. And that's why he wasn't the one. Dobbs is still the two. Jaden Reed is still only out there in 3 wide. He is still the slot option. He's still going to remain that just like he was last year. But Dobbs, who has downfield ability, similar, not quite to the level of Shaheed, but similar to his level of that's going to be the big play option, even if Golden's out there, is why I like Dobbs as well, is because he's clearly, no matter what happens, going to be a top 2 option, whether it's with Reed, whether it's with Golden, or whatever it might be. So I'm with you. I would actually, as of right now, not knowing what's going on with Golden and the rest, Dobbs would be my highest ranked Packer as well. I agree with you there.
Ian, Connor in the chat kind of cleared this up for us. So Andy Reid was misquoted when he was talking about Xavier Worthy. He says, we're taking it day by day instead of saying that he was day by day. So it now seems like they're pushing it to see if he could miss 3 to 5 weeks or he needs season-ending surgery.
Okay.
Yeah, I know Rapshi followed that up a little bit. Rapshi was following up a little bit and was saying that there is, I guess, optimism that he could be avoiding the surgery. So it is a good clarifier and a good reminder to try to read the full quotes and not just taking in the one-liners that are out there. So we'll see, again, what happens with it throughout the week. But I will say with the Packers, guys, okay, put Romeo Doubs first. How high are we ranking him still? Wide receiver 48, 49. It's just an unfortunate situation where everyone's going to eat in that offense. I thought Jordan Love looked really healthy and honestly awesome for those first couple drives, and they were able to kind of coast, lead on Josh Jacobs and everything. So I'll be curious to see what this passing game looks like on Thursday night, though, against the Commanders team that should be a little bit more adept at just being able to, again, keep up on the scoreboard. But that said, guys, if we see Parsons and company shut down the Commanders after really having their way with the Lions, I mean, this Packers defense really could be almost a thorn in the side of the Green Bay passing game, because as we saw last year, man, they are more than content just to really ride Josh Jacobs.
I'll give you one, Pat. Because you like the toss-ups. I'll put Dobbs, if I'm moving him into his rankings, Pat, I would move Dobbs ahead of Diggs, Waddle, Shakir. I put him up with like Keon Coleman at like 36.
Yeah, I like Shakir more than Coleman this week because of the matchup against the Jets, but I'm with you on that's the area that I want to be. I'd also drop Steph Diggs like 20 points, but that's me. The guy I wanted to give a special shout out to before we just quickly breeze through the other positions. Where the hell did he go? You're going to have to help me with the pronunciation. You need to be my pronunciation guide on this, Jake. Alec Ayomanor. Do I got that?
Ayomanor.
Ayomanor. Really? Like it's spelled like phonetically. What is it? They have no zest for any flair on accents.
No.
It's hi. Here's A.O. Manor.
Ayo Manor, but close. Yeah.
Yeah. He was the apple of Cam Ward's eye in that game against Denver. Unfortunately, it was against Denver, and he couldn't really do anything. I don't expect really much this week against the Rams either. Once they start getting to the easier part of the schedule, I think he's firmly their wide receiver too.
And I was just going to say he's essentially Cedric Tillman for the Titans in the fact that he's the number 2, although I will still take Ridley 100% of the time. That's the difference, is that Ridley is the one. This is a Jerry Jeudy situation. Okay, yeah. But I'm saying, like, I'm with you. Like, Ayo Manor has been one of the – so I put him on my free guys. I put him in week 1 of the waivers, week 2 of the waivers. I got him in a few leagues for like $2 or $3 just because of what you're saying is he got past Van Jefferson, which we already knew heading into week 1. They already made the announcement with the depth chart that he got past Van, which was very easy to do. But week 1 comes out, Tyler Lockett's the clear 3. Like, IU Manor's the clear 2. So I'm with you in the fact that I don't know if I trust Cam Ward and this offense to do it this week because it's another tough matchup. But as soon as things clear up, I'm with you. Week 3, I'm going to be thinking about deeper leagues having him as my wide receiver 4.
Tight ends. Ian's ranks. Get them in the description. You tell us. Brock Bowers is at number 1, but he might not play. We'll see where that goes. McBride, Kittle is not playing. He's going to be out 3 to 5 weeks. We'll have to get a replacement for him. So it's McBride, Laporta, Warren, Hawkinson.
I think they're there.
What's that? Yeah, I mean, I think it has to go beyond that. I think the Tucker Kraft, Kelsey, Njoku, Ingram's probably going to miss the week with a calf injury. I think all those guys need to be in there too, and then you are absolutely rolling the dice. I am not a believer in Harold Fannin as a reliable fantasy option week to week, and I think it might actually give you a nice buy low window on Njoku.
Wait. Can we pause? Can we put Ian? Can we here? I got the water right here. Can we pour one out for our boy George Kittle? Like, can we like that was so painful for us.
He had like 4 catches in half a quarter as well. I mean, everything was going the way we thought it was going to go. And then those freaking injury gods. What hex did McCaffrey put on the rest of this team? I mean, they are just taking all the freaking injuries.
What we had to get to have McCaffrey healthy, we had to give up 6 other guys to get it.
What it cost everything, for the 40 right now. So again, Fannin, I don't know, tight end 18, man. Again, he was having, I think, a 63% route rate. So I'm with you. It's not taking away Njoku. I'm cool on buying low on Njoku, but we even saw Swiss Stefanski back in the Vikings days, Kyle Rudolph and Irv Smith. This is one of the few coaches who is willing to feature multiple tight ends on the field at one time. But I thought the wild one, guys, was Kyle Pitts actually looking good on the football field. He looked big enough. And as much as I thought I was out, he's starting to pull me back in a little bit. And God, you mentioned those wide receiver shoulder injuries. Maybe, just maybe 24-year-old Kyle Pitts has something in him.
I would say with Kyle Pitts, the one thing he did very impressive in that game that Bijan could not do was get out of bounds at the end of the game, Jake.
That is true. And I will say, I said, well, as in somebody who was one of the people who say, like, take one more chance on Kyle Pitts. I know you hate him for the last 3 years, but take one more. He played well in what he can do, Ian. I will say that he still can't separate. But what they did in that game, what they can do, and what the Falcons did is they said, go basically play power forward, roll off the defenders, and use your body positioning, use your athletics, basically size against, and that's where he won. He wasn't running great routes. He wasn't separating on his routes, but he was getting open by basically knocking people out of the way. So if they are going to do that, and as you mentioned, if at least one of the two are out and possibly both again, I have no problem with Kyle Pitts. And I think the one that I would move up,
Strange.
No. Well, yes,
a stranger.
Yeah. Like I brought him up earlier. Like the people who ran 100% of the routes, one was a tight end and one was Juwan Johnson. And as long as Spencer Rattler is at quarterback, I know Rattler's probably not going to be the quarterback the entire year, but the last now 4 games with Spencer Rattler, he's got 9 targets and multiples of those. He just throws to Juwan Johnson because that's all he can do. He can't throw downfield very well. I would say that Juwan Johnson's in the conversation to play over Evan Ingram. What the hell are the Broncos even doing with Evan Ingram? I don't think that Evan Ingram's going to play. So you're going to see my main man, Lucas Kroll, the smasher, come into the game for Denver. But I would play I will go so far as this, Pat. Okay. I'm not doing it, but if it's tight end, if you wanted to bench Mark Andrews for Juwan Johnson, you have my blessing, because what did Mark Andrews do in week 1 with no Isaiah Likely? The same thing he did with Isaiah Likely. Charlie Kohler was out there getting the Isaiah Likely snaps. I don't get the Ravens with Mark Andrews, but whatever it is, if you wanted to have that conversation, I'm not going to hate you for it, because I think the circle of trust ends with Warren.
Yeah, Ian, I would drop down Andrews into like the mid-teens. I would not want to play him. I'm with Jake to bump up Juwan Jennings. I would bump up Brenton Strange. Juwan Johnson, sorry, yeah. You don't want Juwan Jennings in there. You want your Juwan Johnson. I think you probably would want Juwan Jennings. But you can't play him at tight end. He's not Marcus Colston. You can't just fudge the numbers on that end and make it work.
That was such a fun year.
But if Bowers is out, where would you put Myers? And we know that Kittle is out. And are we assuming it's Tongs, Jake Tongs?
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, are you speaking in tongues?
Heck of a game-winning touchdown for the guy. I'm doubtful that we're going to see this every down roll. Apparently, Brock Purdy is banged up now, too.
Oh,
Again, just one after another.
Mac Jones.
For these 49ers. Who? Mac Jones. But, yeah, man, I would say Juwan Johnson, if he did want to get up there in the top 12, no disagreements here. He had the game-tying touchdown in his hands. 3 defenders around him helped knock it out. So, not calling it, the worst drop in the world. But he has been one of these guys where he's consistently looked like a great receiver throughout his career, but they've always rotated tight ends in New Orleans. And maybe they will later in the year, but Taysom Hill, Foster Moreau, both those guys are on IR with knee injuries. So Juwan Johnson, guys, on a waiver wire show for Fantasy Life yesterday, we were saying we're long-term over the course of the season. Maybe you believe in Harold Fannon's, youthful upside a little bit more in that. But for right now in week 2, if you do need a tight end on the waiver wire, it is Juwan Johnson.
Where would Meyer rank for you if Bowers sits, Jake?
Oh, Mayer.
Mayer, yeah.
You're talking about Jacoby.
Yeah.
I'd say probably right where Evan Ingram is. I'd squeeze him in the top 12.
With Goddard.
Yeah, I think he'd be like 11 or 12 for me.
Yeah.
But I'd have Strange above Pitts. It's probably where I'd stop. I bumped down Andrews and I put Strange at probably 10.
I got to tell you, if Trevor Lawrence looked any good, I would put Strange pushing the top 10.
No, I think it works better that Trevor Lawrence sucks. He doesn't push the ball down the field. He's in the Brenton Strange zone. It's like he sat on his hand. It's too numb to throw down the field.
My point is how uncatchable half of his balls are. That's the problem.
Listen, who led the Jags in receiving? My main man, the Stranger.
Why doesn't Liam Cohen just fix this, right? I mean, come on.
He's a super genius. He should be able to.
Yeah,
Quarterbacks.
All the right plays.
Quarterbacks quickly, Jake, because I know you got to run. Ian and I will take some questions after the fact, but what streamers would you like this week? Because you're going to have the guys you're always going to play. We don't need to spend really any time, but if you had to go stream some guys this week, are there 2 or 3 matchups you do like?
Are you asking me or are you asking?
I'm asking you, Jake,
Ian.
Before you go.
Look, I would take the chance on Lawrence against the Bengals. Gino, I know he's got the matchup against the Chargers. And then if this has everything to do with if London is out there. I don't care about Mooney, but if London is out there, and then, of course, if Mooney is. Michael Penix, I was surprised he added to the run game in week 1. I didn't think that was part of this game in the NFL that was going to be a part of it. But against the Vikings, I know it's a tough defense, but if the Vikings can look like they did in the second half, and Caleb Williams at times and that offense didn't have a ton of problem against that Vikings defense, I think Penix is an interesting one. And, of course, our boy, Joe Flacco, against the Ravens. But I thought that was without mentioning. We didn't have to point that out. Look, I tell you 12 because my hard out is 12-10, so I can be here for some of the questions. But I tell you 12 to give myself that buffer. I know how long we've been doing this show that I need that buffer.
That's fair. I would bump up. I think it's pass-happy Flacco. You're playing a vol. He might throw 3 picks. I don't care. He's just going to throw the ball 55 times. That should be good enough to get inside like the top 12 of fantasy points, Ian. And I would probably bump up Daniel Jones, too. I know it's against Denver, but he's going to be running.
Yeah, Flacco should be a little bit higher, at least, inside that top 20. Top 12, a little bit of a stretch for me, but we'll see what happens there. I think Jake nailed it, though. Geno Smith would be the streamer that I would be leaning on because they really did open it up. And this Chargers offense, too, looked really good. Going to be a fun doubleheader Monday Night Football. And I do think that we could, again, see the Raiders keep up there with the Chargers. Don't be scoffing. More football.
I'm scoffing. No.
10
I
p.m.
like,
no.
That's why. I like the doubleheaders when it was 7 and 8:30. What are we doing with this 10 p.m. bull crap?
It's 11 for me.
It's even worse for Pat. Hate to tell you this, the waivers are going to be published at midnight and updated when I wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning.
I'm going to watch that game when I wake up in the morning. I'll call it early and wake up at like 5 a.m. to go watch that. So I like Flacco to bump up. Maybe I don't love Daniel Jones as much. I really like Flacco in that spot a little bit better. I guess the other one I would look at is J.J. McCarthy looked pretty good in the second half, or at least in the fourth quarter, Ian.
Yeah, he did. I mean, again, maybe one of the worst first 3 quarters we could have had. He hit the nice throw before halftime, but then after that pick 6, it was just like, good God, what are we seeing here? But dude kept going at it. Again, got some help from the run game and stuff. I will say that just based on what we saw out there, I don't think we are going to see them fully open up this offense anytime soon. This was, again, one of the biggest drop-offs in terms of 2024 pass play rate compared to what we did see in week 1. And that was even with the Vikings trailing by 11, and it felt like 50, for portions there of the third quarter. So I do think this is going to be a more deliberate run-first offense, at least early in the year. Once again, McCarthy is even more comfortable. Once Jordan Addison is back, maybe they change things up. But McCarthy, again, what did he throw for 140 yards? I just think it's going to be more of a volume problem for him than anything.
Well,
Better
the problem
runner.
is, Pat, he's not even a streamer. He's like 70% rostered because
Oh,
everybody was buying
I
into the
suppose that's
hype.
true. Yeah. I had not
He
considered.
did run well, though. I hear you there. That was a nice scramble.
DST streamers, if you have questions for me, Jake, and Ian about your teams in week 2, about start, sit, or waiver, now is the time to dump them into the live chat. The only way you can ask a question if you smash the like, and you need to be a sub to the channel in order to get into that live chat. So start filling it up right now if you have any questions. I have a DST streamer for you, Jake. You ready for this?
49ers.
Tennessee Titans.
Oh, they would be up there too. Yeah.
The Titans
Yeah, the
defense
whole
Ian, looked
point-
good.
Yeah, sure. But the whole point of preaching the 49ers for weeks was that we don't need to worry about streamers anymore. We have the 49ers until
Yes.
freaking December, and we have that bye week.
That's the
But
thing is they go to New Orleans, which is amazing. Then they get Arizona, Jacksonville, potentially the Rams just for the sacks and potential turnout. Like, how are the 49ers at 30-something% rostered?
Well, this is also why I think that they do sit Brock Purdy this week and play Mac Jones, simply because they're playing the Saints.
Do you think, Pat, if you're in your giant survivor, which I am, any interest in playing the Saints and being like, maybe?
Like playing the Saints and Survivor to box out the San Francisco people?
Yeah.
No, I'd probably just use Arizona this week. That's where I'm leaning.
Okay. I was just curious.
Although
I could see
Arizona
some
can get
people
ga-
trying to be tricky.
This week is far more tricky than last week. Like, I mean, I think every favorite won last week, but just looking at what Tennessee was able to do, and it's not like Denver's offensive line is bad. It's not. They were getting in Bo Nix's face. Their coverage was good. Their D line was good. Weirdly, Ian, I think I mentioned this like in the preseason. I think it was on this show that they kind of have the B- version of the Denver defense.
I don't know, man. I don't want to be trusting the Titans there against Matthew Stafford as long as he is healthy. Honestly, I would say just kind of continuing to target this Giants offense maybe would make a little more sense. The Cowboys are basically free out there on the waiver. I'm only seeing them owned in 3.7% of ESPN leagues. Again, they are going to be playing at home, and I thought they honestly looked pretty impressive against the Eagles.
I was just about to
especially
say,
in that second half.
They got to Hurts more than I thought they would.
They're pretty deep on that defensive line. Again, obviously, there's not another Micah Parsons there. The one that is closest is DeMario Overshown, who's not going to be back here for probably another 5 or 6 weeks, unfortunately. But again, they got some young dogs up there, and they really did seemingly open it up a little bit more in the second half. They were even saying on the broadcast, I guess guys were telling Eberflus, like, come on, unleash us, let us go blitz, and good things happen with it. So I would say Cowboys against the Giants. But again, yeah, I mean, that has been the whole 49ers thing because we have one good matchup after another. And even though, bad ones on paper, like the Rams, like, well, how long is the back going to hold up for Stafford? And then the Buccaneers, Baker is more than willing to throw some interceptions in addition to the touchdowns. So definitely 49ers, sneaky one at Cowboys.
49ers would be above me for Tennessee, of course. I mean, they're the ones that I have on my team because we talked this through last week. Just draft the 49ers, use them for weeks, you'll be good. Tennessee, if you need them, and I wouldn't be above New England, Jake, against Miami because Christian Gonzalez should be back. They sacked Geno 4 times.
Oh, I think the Patriots are interesting. I think the Rams on the other side of the Titans are interesting. And then for your survivor pick, the Cardinals against the Panthers.
Yeah, that game scares me.
Oh,
Yeah,
for
man.
survivor or just in general?
Just in general, like there's something about that game that just smells wrong.
No,
We're
what
all
scares
way
me is that I have to watch this shit again.
Well,
Well, there's 2 for you
listen,
on one
we're just-
episode, Pat.
we are 2 down. We there's a chance that we're 2 down on Carolina at the moment. Just it's week 1. We see this every year. That one team just looks awful. If Indianapolis is this year's Saints, I'm not going to be super stunned.
No, but again, Bryce Young looked as awful as he ever did.
When was the last time
year.
you got to throw it away on 4th down through the end zone?
Hey, I tell you what, I played one series of quarterback, and I found out real quickly that my peripheral vision goes out the window because my brain gets scared. So I'm not going to take it. I'm not taking any shots at this situation.
It's a good shout on the Patriots. They did have that, again, great schedule. The Cardinals are there as well. I think they're probably going to be owned in more leagues than not. But I would just say Survivor Cardinals. Like, I want to pick a team that I do think is legit good in real life. If we did a circle of trust for NFL teams that we actually think are good real life football teams, Cardinals wouldn't be in it.
Yeah, Baltimore's got to be the play. They're like 13-point favorites now, I think.
Yeah.
Q&A. So here's some questions from the chat. You can dump them in right now. We're going to try to do this as quickly as possible and give you some answers. Iconic Thrive lost Kittle, Ian. Picked up Fannin and Juwan Johnson. Who should he start? And also, he could pick up Jonnu Smith if that's on the table for you.
Nah, they're still splitting it with him and Freiermuth as much as Arthur Smith is going to give Jonnu some design touches. So for me, it is Juwan Johnson right now.
Me too.
Agreed.
Jake? Okay.
Yep.
Lawrence or McCarthy at quarterback?
I think you play into the potential shootout game script against the Bengals and go with T-Law. He can scoot around too. So nice performance from McCarthy. I think volume's on Lawrence's side.
Agreed again.
Yeah, that's a round of them. Would you go Pickens or Benson in the flex? There, I would still play Pickens.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Pickens for the upside.
Yeah, I don't want to play. Although it's a great matchup against Carolina, and he did get a split with James Conner. I just don't like playing backup running backs, even if it's a 40% backup running back against someone like George Pickens, who can get open down the field. Start two of these guys, Jake: Dak, Goff, and May. I think this one's easy.
Why? Because you're not going to without your boy there.
Don't give me the goof. You sit down the goof.
Look, it's all with his arm, and I'm willing to give a pass with everybody else for Detroit in Week 1 with the Ben. But I mean, maybe Ben Johnson was a bigger factor than we put it on it. Like, I at least give it one more week before I went back to Goff. For people that, again, May has the rushing upside on top of it for his side of it.
There were a few concerning things with Detroit as well. They actually saw their play action and their pre-snap shift motion plummet out there. So I know they said they were going to keep the same offense, but it really wasn't. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs couldn't get anything going. So I would go with May and Dak in this spot.
Do you think it's too early to put Njoku into the quote, it's tight end, you just have to pick someone up tier? I don't. I think you can still play him for the moment.
I think, but here's the thing is, yes, I agree with you, Pat, but with tight end, at the beginning of the season, there was only 3 names I trusted. Like,
sure.
I think it's tight end. Like, if you want, that's why I brought up the Andrews thing, because he needs a touchdown. If he gets one, everybody's going to be mad that we even brought up the fact that you could potentially bench him. But after 3 names, like Laporta is even there, but I think you could argue for Warren. Hawkinson was a non-factor for 90% of that game. Like, it's tight end. Throw out whoever the hell you want.
Ian, Tracy, or Bill Krosky?
I'm leaning Tracy still. He had a great utilization, 70% plus snaps and stuff. Like, he was the lead running back. It obviously didn't get him all that much. So Cowboys defense did look good. No Eckler. I will go Bill Krosky, but for right now, give me Tracy.
Jake?
Yeah, I'll lean that way barely.
Jake, Ferguson or Pitts?
Pitts. I'm going to shoot for the ceiling. It's tight end.
Go. Pitts, baby.
Ricky Bullets or Garrett Wilson? I think you should just play both these guys. You got a good team if you got both these guys.
Yeah, how do you have to bench one of them? Find somebody else to bench, especially if Jennings isn't out there.
I would play Wilson over Pearsall, though.
I would too. I have Pearsall, assuming, because I thought the Juwan Jennings injury was going to be worse than we kind of got that update for. So I had Pearsall up there, wide receiver 22, Garrett, wide receiver 15, assuming that. But also, Purdy is going to be a little bit banged up. They're in a matchup where they're probably not going to have to keep the foot on the gas. I think we go with Garrett Wilson.
Could Dart start week 2? I believe Russell Wilson's already been named the starter.
Yeah, he's already named
for week 2. Hampton or Egbuka? I would play Egbuka.
Yeah, I think I would too.
Jake?
This comes down to, do you want the guaranteed points? It's really about, so I have no problem with Egbuka, but if you want to guarantee production, it's Hampton still.
Yeah, if you want to guarantee.
I'm worried, though. We saw Harbaugh have that quote saying that they had Najee on a strict 12 snap count. So, again, I know Hampton wasn't efficient. I listed all the running backs that also weren't efficient. So I'm not so worried about that.
Yeah.
I just think we could be looking up and it's like 60-40 instead of the 80-10 it was.
Full point PPR, pick one of these guys. Listen very carefully. Shakir, Pacheco, Chubb, or Kupp. I think it's Shakir, not close for me.
Full point PPR. Just
Khalil.
Yeah.
And he has Josh Allen as a quarterback.
Yeah. Oh, him, or you mean Shakir?
No, the guy who's asking this question has Josh Allen as his quarterback.
Oh, okay. I was like, yeah, of course Shakir. Yeah. I'd still, that probably wouldn't have moved the needle much for me. The only thing would be Chubb if I could guarantee points, but I wouldn't even guarantee what they're like. Shakir's going to guarantee probably the same in this situation.
Well, and Ian,
we might have to get. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
We talked about the Tampa Bay not being able to cover pass catching running backs. Chubb, not a pass catching running back. He might see his snap share diminish in this game a little.
No, your boy, the Goon. The Goon is out there.
There's prop of the week. Dare Alaguanaguguni over catches. Yeah, that guy. Over catches.
I don't know, man. That game-losing fumble, we'll see if that doghouses them or not. So I would just say, with the Jets defense, I know we're used to them being good, but no more Robert Saleh. Obviously, DJ Reed left in free agency. Sauce Gardner doesn't really travel around with number 1 wide receiver. So, again, when we saw Pittsburgh just really have one wide open guy to throw to after another, I know they have given Josh Allen some trouble over the year, but God forbid they keep things close enough for the Bills to keep this passing game opening up. Shakir and Coleman could both be fun.
Yeah, so that's the last question that we're going to have. Comes from Tyler Nurse. Jake, he asked Keon Coleman or Devonta Smith?
Ooh.
I think it's Smith.
Yeah, still.
I get, yeah, I'm going to give him one more week. I'm not like, this is the thing when you drafted AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, you have to understand at the end of the year, you're going to have 6 bad games. Like, this is just what the Eagles are, especially now with Barkley into the mix. But I'll still roll out Smith.
All right, well, that will do it on the Pat Mayo experience. I see the T. Hamilton dropped in Fields or Lawrence. The answer is Fields. Just roll that, and you're going to be much better off than playing Trevor Lawrence, even against the Bengals in that matchup. Ian, when are you live this week? And tell everyone about fantasylife.com.
The Fantasy Life Show, Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern. Also get on Sunday nights, post-Sunday Night Football. My guy, Dwayne McFarland, I think we wrapped up around 2:30 a.m. the other night there. Just, again, trying to get you guys all that goodness as soon as possible. I got my rankings up on fantasylife.com, an article to boot. Also got my 10 things and favorite matchups. That, again, last week we actually were able to highlight the potential for Joe Burrow and the Bengals to have some trouble against Myles Garrett and company. So all that and much more at fantasylife.com. Always a pleasure. Pat and Jake.
Yes. McLaurin or Kenneth Washed III. I would go with Terry this week on Thursday Night Football. Jake at OwenKid, theathletic.com. Tell people about the article when they come out in the podcast.
Yeah, waivers 12:01 a.m. Monday, ranks 12:01 Tuesday, and yeah, the podcast is going 3 times. Ian Hart is going to be a guest soon. The short version on Mondays, a recap, short version on Fridays for the last notes you need, and then the long version, both with myself, and then publishing this one to share over there as well.
All right, you can follow me at the PME. I'll have my ranks sent out through the newsletter on Wednesday afternoon. You can subscribe for free to that mailing list down in the description of this video or podcast right now. We're going to be live every single Tuesday at 10:45 a.m. Eastern time. So please come join us, share the show around when you see it, and I will see you next time.